where everything we do is going to be in our Hyper-Vs. So pulling that up right now, our Hyper-V manager. We're going to continue from Friday. So if these were running when you turn your machine off, they'll be running when you turn it on too. So it keeps these in the same state. That's why it took it a while for mine to log back in and turn on, because you had to turn all these on too at the same time. So I'm going to go to test first because I'm going to confirm communication. Whenever we leave our lab, come back, let's make sure stuff's talking properly. And I believe we left off on our test bench with joining the domain. So yep, there we go. Administrator at contoso.com. I don't know why it's in there twice. Go server 123. Oh, that's right, we were adding them to that so we can manage them. I'm going to minimize that really quick. So actually, that probably tells me it's working, but I'm just going to do the same old ping DC1. We should get a proper response. There we go. And DC2. All right, cool. So for this management on this one, to actually manage those, we have to install the features for what we want to manage. So we have them added here, but if we want to actually manage stuff on those, see if it'll let us. Because you notice if you go up the tools, it's not going to have our DHCP and all that, so we have to actually install the tools. So I'm going to click on test, manage, add roles and features really quick. So ours isn't, it's not a server, but we probably want the management tools. Right there, remote server administration tools right here. And if you drop that, it'll have everything in there, see? We want to install that. I think that's all of our RSAT. So I'm going to hit next. Next. I don't think we need to restart from that. That's just going to give us all the tools we need to actually manage remotely. phone off so they stop calling me. There we go. Phone's off. Waiting for that to finish. Yay! So as we're watching this, though, you can see it's got Active Directory domain services and ADLDS tools. So it's got everything we're going to need just to manage those other servers. And this is just one way you can manage from a different computer, manage all your servers in one place. And then I'll re-add the servers to this so you can remember how we did it, because I think I cut this out of the video, but I don't remember. Let me know if I did cut it out of the video on Friday. Not installing this part, but adding those servers to it. So I just got a message that number 7's got their network up and running. How do they connect? So yeah, check your email. Oi. All right, succeeded. Close. All right, so what that just gave us was our tools here that we're missing. Now you see they're all in here now. So now we can actually manage our other servers here. So I can come up here. It shows me Contoso, and then it shows me everything in it. How you like that? Because this computer here is not a server. It has no server stuff on it. The software server, but we haven't given it any roles. So that allows us to manage from one location. This same server manager you can install on Windows 10. So, and if we missed it last week, let me come right here and I'll just go delete, remove server. I remove DC1. And to add them, all we do is come to this server right here. You can just right click it and go add server. You can also do it from task right here. And Active Directory, we just hit find now. It'll find every computer on our Active Directory. Then we can just click on them, hit this little arrow right here, and it adds it over here. So it's going to add 2, and then we hit OK. And it adds them to our management list right here. That's kind of fun, huh? So remember, right now we're on our test bench doing all this. So once you have this set up on one and you have your tools installed, we don't have to be on the other computer to manage it for most of the stuff we need to do. So we probably want a regular user account. We need to test a user account, right? So we're going to come up to Tools, and we're going to go to Active Directory Users and Computers. And let me just minimize stuff behind us and make this big. So again, that was staying open from how I opened it earlier. We just go into contoso.com, drop it down. So what's all in this list, which you guys should know by now from doing at least up to lesson 4. Gonna move this over here. So built-in accounts, these are accounts that come already pre-made on an Active Directory. So these are accounts and groups. Looks like these are all groups. So you have the administrator group, backup operators. A lot of the stuff's background stuff. All applications still need rights to do stuff. So you have RDS management services, that's remote desktop services, regular user groups. That's what we're going to make is a regular user. Over here we have computers. Computers are just like users. They also have to have permissions to be on our network. So when we joined it, test is right there. So you see how test is on the network now. And if we clicked on this, if we were having issues joining it and it said the handshake failed and that we weren't able to actually connect, so it'll say authorization handshake failed or something similar to that. We have to disjoin the computer and then rejoin it. to the domain, and that'll fix the authorization to it. So right here is pretty much the user account for the computer that we created specifically. So if we went on the properties, you'll see this has a lot of the same stuff that a user account's going to have. So it's a member of domain computers. It can also be a member of administrator group if we want to make it one. So we're going to go to delegation, and we can delegate for other people to trust these computers. So we can set whether we do or don't trust them, what kind of authentication that they're using. So this is more in depth in Yvonne's class, but this is where this is located for individual permissions of that computer itself, not the users on it, but what can that computer actually do on our network. So, and this is old legacy stuff. Verified caller ID, like assign static IP address, so we can set the IP address to that computer if we want to, right here. See? So instead of doing it at the computer, we can say that computer is always going to have this IP address and manage it from here. So next down the list is our domain controllers. This will have all the computers that are our domain controllers. So DC1 is a domain controller. And that's actually our master one. The master FSMA roles are all on our DC1. And then DC2 is replicating from DC1. If you remember when we were picking options when we were downloading, they stay in sync with each other. So if that goes down, our DNS2 points to DC2, which allows us to still authenticate and log into our network. If these are turned off, we can't log in. So then this part right here that we don't have anything in it, you'll add this and mess around with the foreign security principles with Yvonne's class. And the one we're going to do is right here. So these are all mostly pre-made accounts. We haven't created any of our own accounts, right? So right now we have administrator. If you look in here, let me zoom in. Zoom in. Out of the way. So if it's a single head, that's a user account. If it's two heads, that's a group. So a user can be a member of a group. It's one way to give permissions and rights and stuff to people. Instead of having to do it per user, giving them permissions, we give the permissions to a group, and then we add the user to a group. So I think there's only like 3 by default. Let me get out of here. Almost all computers, they have an administrator, a guest, and a user. So in this one, it doesn't have a default user, it doesn't look like. But if we create a new one, it'll be default user account. So on Windows 10, this account is disabled. The guest account is disabled, and the administrator account is disabled when you install Windows 10 by default. Those are your security risks on Windows 10. So if you look at your computer on your Windows 10, you go to your local groups, your administrator is probably a disabled account. The best thing that you do to those is go to that account, rename it, put a password on it, and then disable it again. That way people don't know what it's called, because what someone can do is put an installation disk in your computer, use PowerShell off of that installation disk, and they can activate the administrator account and have full rights to your computer and do whatever they want on it. So that's one security hole you need to fix every time when you install this on someone's computer or on your own computer. And the guest account should always be disabled and renamed also, because that account is also a bad Mojo account. It means they don't need a password to get on it. You can't delete these. That's what sucks. But you can go and disable them. So this one, user cannot change passwords. So that's the guest account. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a new account. And I'm going to use a name that you guys are going to get familiar with later. So I don't want to interfere with the ones that are actually in your labs. So I'm just going to go up to here. You can see there's a create account right here. There's a create group here. We can also come over here and just right click and go to new. And we can do computer, contact, groups. We're going to go to the bottom where we're going to do just a new user. This is just going to be a regular user. And this is a name you're going to get familiar with in your 411. It's going to be Dawn Funk. And then the login should be Dawn underscore Funk. Okay. And I'm just using this name because this is one that you guys will use for doing everything on 411 and 412. So it's just your first exposure to that name. So I'm going to hit next. So we're going to create a password for it. So let's do the server 123 like we always do. And we're going to say user must change password. So we're going to, this is how I did this to you guys when you guys logged in for the first time. You had to pick a password. I think you saw me do it a few times for people. I'm going to hit next on that account. So we got Dawn Funk. The login name is Dawn underscore Funk at contoso.com. And the user must change the password at next login. So I'm going to hit finish on that user, okay? So as you see on the right side here, just like the guest account, his type is just user. He's not a member of anything. So we have domain user right here, which will allow him to join the domain. So let's see. We're going to not change anything on it. We're going to see if it's going to let us join the domain and see if we need to add permissions, okay? So what I'm just going to do, since we're on our test computer right now, is I'm just going to come over here and I'm going to go to sign out. So I'll have to control delete. So I don't want to sign in as administrator this time. I'm going to go other user. And I'm going to put Dawn Funk in here. It still says Contoso under here, so I don't have to type the rest of the stuff at the end of that. And then server 123. So it says I need to change my password. I'm just going to use the same one. Now, so it wants that password to be more complex than what I put in there, right? So that's one thing to know on here is that the password that we use does not meet their minimum requirements for complexity. Later on, you guys will change that with GPOs. So I'm going to hit OK. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the server 123. And then I'll do server 123 with an exclamation point for this exercise. So that's what I'm doing for this one. And now it's happy. Now it's going to log in too on its own. So this is just a user. It's a regular user. They shouldn't have permissions to do anything to this computer, okay? So if I try to click on this and do stuff in this, I should start getting some issues. It'll probably show it to me. Let's see if it'll let me change stuff. I can't type. So I can't make any changes. Let's see. Can I type here? Nope. So I don't have permissions as a user to make changes to any of this. So also if I wanted to cause some damage on a server right now, see, it doesn't even show the servers because I don't have permission to see those servers. I think even if I try to tell that to do something, it's not going to because I'm not authorized. So let me sign back out and sign back in as an administrator. So right now I'm just a regular user. So this is what like your front office staff, they'd all be. They'd start off as a user and then you'd throw them into a group that gives them permissions. Some places are lazy and their administrators put everybody in an admin, say, all right, here, you have all rights to everything on your computer. That's bad because that can cause damage. Because most people who are working in an office don't have computer training. They just sat down and learned how to use a program. They don't know what they're doing on a computer. So I'm going to log back in as our administrator. Now, notice it changed the test down there, so I have to do at contoso.com and type a password. So now if we go back to that local page, you can see all this stuff's populating too right here because we're an administrative account. So I go back to the all servers, everything's in here. And there's no error message on test. So let's make Don Funk an administrator, okay? So we're going to go back to Active Directory, users and computers. It's going to put us right where we left off in here. So let's look at admin. What group is administrator a member of? Now that looks like it's a local one, but let's go to properties. And we're just go to member of. So these groups are what make an administrator on domain. Sometimes for changing stuff on a local computer, you have to add the administrator to the local administrator group for them to make local changes to that computer. So just because they got domain administrative rights, which means they pretty much are God on the Active Directory, does not mean they can make local changes on an individual's computer. So a lot of times you got to log in as the local admin and then add the domain administrator group to the local admin administrator group so that they can actually make changes to local stuff. Hopefully that makes some sense. So let's look at this. The groups of these as a member of, first, it's a member of administrators, contoso.com. It's a built-in group. Domain admins, contoso.com/users. Domain users, it's a member of domain users group. It's a member of enterprise admin. It's a member of group policy creator owner. And it's a member of the schema admins. So we can actually change the structure of the Active Directory database. So these are what we want to, one at a time, we'll add to Don Funk and see what we get, okay? I see typing, but I don't know if you're typing in the thing and it's just registering it or... All right, we'll have to look at them. I'm going to go to Don Funk, and I'm just going to right-click on them and say Add to a Group. So here's a really easy way. Those are all domain. I can just type domain. This does not work if you're trying to do local groups. You have to actually know what you're typing. So if I check that, it'll give me all the domain groups, right? So we're already a domain user. Actually, I think it just made us a regular user. But we'll add domain admin and say OK. So now we should be an administrator, right? So I'm going to go to sign out. Log back in as Don Funk. Remember, we had an exclamation point to his password. So now Don Funk's an administrator. I'm going to go up here to users and computers. And let's see if it lets us edit stuff. I might need to give him more rights. We're going to go to our account. I'm going to right click. Let's see if it'll let me reset password. What's funny is that server 123, I can do it right here if I want, but it won't let me do it when it's a reset on the other part. I'm going to go okay. And it let me change the password. I now have administrative rights to make changes. That's the only difference I needed, was for him to be a member of the administrator group. So now if I go into here, I can go to my account, and now I can actually type. So type administrator on DC2. Sorry, answering in the chat. All right, let me hit apply. So that gave this user, Don Funk, administrative rights. So now we shouldn't have any error messages on our local server, hopefully. See right here, it just says online now. It doesn't have those errors that were there before. And if we want to manage those other ones, this is account specific. So stuff that you added as the other admin doesn't add to other people's accounts. So you got to go up to here again. We can add server. And I can just search Active Directory, and I can add these to Don Funk's account. And then hit OK. And if all things goes as planned, those all work without error. So he has rights, with just being part of the domain admin group, to manage all this stuff right here. So there's a couple deeper level stuffs he can't do. He can't edit the schema and all that. But the admin account's a really strong account. So we've gone through a regular user account and pretty much the basics of an admin account and how rights and permissions allow you to do stuff or not do stuff. So I'm going to cut this one short right here and get you guys to this point, and then we'll see what we want to do after this, okay?